Alrighty, and we're live, and I'm here with my frequent sidekick, Artistic Layman,
Hello, everyone.
and Matt Forney's with us.
I can quit anytime I want to.
And the first thing I want to talk about tonight is the death by suicide of Tumblr. So let me see if I can bring up the post. Here we go. Come on. Sorry, I'm getting a link so that Luke can. If I can, I can't get an exact link. Anyways,
Great.
So Tumblr's fucking gay. Anyways, the way it is. But okay, so I got this here, and it says this is Tumblr staff. It's I guess Tumblr's actual Tumblr blog. I guess I can't find a fucking link. But it says a better, more positive Tumblr. Since its founding in 2007, Tumblr has always been a place for wide open, creative self-expression at the heart of community and culture. To borrow from our founder, David Karp, we're proud to have inspired a generation of artists, writers, creators, whatever. Let's get to the meat here. So what is changing? Posts that contain adult content will no longer be allowed on Tumblr. And we've updated our community guidelines to reflect this policy change. We recognize Tumblr is a place to speak freely about topics like art, sex, positivity, your relationships, your sexuality, and your personal journey. We want to make sure that we continue to foster this type of diversity of expression in the community. So our new policy strives to strike a balance. Why are we doing this? It is our continued humble aspiration that Tumblr be a safe place for creative expression, self-discovery, and a deep sense of community. As Tumblr continues to grow and evolve, our understanding of our impact on the world becomes clearer. We have a responsibility to consider the impact across different age groups, demographics, cultures, and mindsets. We spent considerable time weighing the pros and cons of expression in the community that includes adult content. In doing so, it became clear that without this content, we have the opportunity to create a place where more people feel comfortable expressing themselves. Again, with the newspeak, censorship leads to more expression. Bottom line, there is no shortage of sites on the internet that feature adult content. We will leave it to them and focus our efforts on creating the most welcoming environment. So what's next? Starting December 17th, 2018, we will begin enforcing this new policy. Community guideline. Without going through the whole thing, basically, if you have porn on Tumblr, on your Tumblr blog, it's already been flagged. And on the 17th, all the porn that's been flagged will go to private. So a bunch of these porn blogs will, I guess, in theory, still be up. They just won't have any fucking posts anymore that the public can see. And conservative estimates are that pornography makes up 10% of Tumblr. Conservative estimates I've seen. I think it's probably more than that. Tumblr just signed its own death warrant. And because let's say it's only 10%. Okay, so you chop out 10% of your user base. Well, you just push the momentum into a death spiral. How many people are then going to leave because some other people left, and then and so on and so on. You just push the momentum against a growing user base. You chop off at least 10% of your user base right off the bat. And then there's going to be the fact that I've already seen screen caps. Whatever sort of bot they're using to flag all this content is very indiscriminate in its fire. All right. It doesn't watch its fire at all. I've seen people have screen capped that like Chuck Norris memes on their fucking Tumblrs have been already flagged. I don't know if this is true, but I've heard like the Tumblr post, like the post on regarding this shit itself has been flagged or something. Tumblr's about ready to just have to delete its fucking self in the course of doing this. It's not just going to be the porn. Tons of posts are going to go fucking blank, just go dark. And then people that don't have porn posts that were flagged, they're going to then be, sending those for review. So the poor fucking staff at Tumblr, however many people work at this shithole company, they're going to have to go through all these damn things. They've completely destroyed themselves here. And as I said, I kind of suspect this isn't it isn't just like, okay, so the alt-right, the dissident right, whatever, they've obviously been lined up against the wall from these tech companies. But let's be real, it isn't just them. What these bug men want is they want this demolition man sanitized fucking internet. That not a real sense of morality, but this sanitized corporate, advertiser friendly demolition man style of morality. They want everything to be Facebook and friendly for boomer moms. They want everything to be advertiser friendly so they can sell us Pepsi and Ford and Nike shoes and whatever else in the ads. They want the internet sanitized. And I often wonder, I don't know if the actual porn companies would object to a lot of this. I mean, you're dealing with, if porn got scrubbed from mainstream sites, that would probably actually make porn sites ever so slightly more profitable again. If free porn wasn't, so damn abundant to where you actually had to maybe be smart to find it. That might actually make people pay for porn again.
Yeah, it's like how in dry counties in Kentucky and Tennessee, liquor interests will sometimes actually work with evangelical Christians to maintain those laws because, the people who want to get booze will then just go to the county that isn't dry and boost the liquor sales in that county.
Yeah, I wonder if maybe the porn sites, the actual sites. And maybe on a cultural level, that would be a good thing. I'm like, I don't. There's always going to be porn. I don't think you can make it go away. But maybe if it was something where people actually paid for it, and maybe the porn sites chased for profitability rather than, shady Soros money. Maybe there would just be regular porn instead of a bunch of weird interracial cuckold porn getting pushed. I mean, there's always going to be Vice, Yeah, you have to have some manner of outlet for it, or else it just festers. I don't know though. I think this is going to be really interesting because, like I said, I don't think that Tumblr is alone in this. These tech companies, I mean, we've seen this. These tech companies, every one of them has their hands in each other's pockets, and they tend to move in a herd. One of them pulls a stunt like this, then the next one does, then the next one does, then the next one does. I fully expect Twitter's going to pull this cord here soon. Because I know Twitter is full of fucking porn. Honestly, if Torba really wanted to expand Gab, I know he started to actually crack down on the porn. I know he banned Lolly, which is so kind of vague when he basically banned almost all anime porn, because there's no clear line for that. If he actually wanted to make his site grow, and he's hardly ran his site very well, but just let the fucking smut peddlers in. Say, hey, look, as long as you clearly mark your shit not safe for work, 18 plus, yeah, come on in here and post your fucking degenerate shit. It would grow his site. I don't think it would interfere with anybody else except for the spamming porn bots. If they were marked not safe for work, the people that don't want to see it wouldn't see it. If I was him, I'd do it. Just in the interest of growing the site. You're going to have a huge... And then not only that, but if you get a bunch of fucking weird left-wing Tumblr ads onto your site, you officially squash the it's just an alt-right, neocon shithole thing. So if Torba was smart, he'd take advantage of this, but I think we all know he likely will not. But it will be interesting to see where this goes, because as I said, this is not the end. I suspect that we're going to see. I think Twitter is going to be the next one to pull this, to get rid of the porn.
But that's not normal, cries humanity. That's the point, cries Tumblr. Beret tossed and wrists slit.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit here and lament the loss of Tumblr. I'm not going to sit here and lament the idea that porn, gets put back in the fucking digital red light district where it belongs and it's not on every fucking site. I just think I think there's going to be a lot of interesting developments come out of this because, like I said, I don't think it's over. We suddenly now have a bunch of more left-wing people say, but what about my free speech? That's an interesting development in and of itself all of a sudden.
Yeah, you Tumblr rights. If you don't like what a private company does, go build your own Tumblr.
Yeah, go build your own Tumblr. I think this is this is not over. And I think it'll be very interesting to observe where this goes.
This is basically Tumblr porn is pretty much the only reason for Tumblr to exist. I used to be a heavy Tumblr user back in the day. As far as a blogging platform goes, it is absolutely broken and useless. It has maybe about a third of the functionality of WordPress or any other decent CMS. It's very difficult to get clicks or people to read your shit there because of the reblogging system disincentivizes that. And people on Tumblr are fucking thieves. Okay, if you put anything original on Tumblr, expect it to be you can easily reblog stuff on Tumblr to give credit to the original person, but a lot of people will just download it to their computer and then repost it to their own blogs without giving any credit. Actually, it's funny, Luke, the video he put up, they actually talk about that.
Yeah. And I mean, look, Tumblr, even aside from porn, Tumblr is useful for finding funny pics, memes and GIFs and that sort of stuff. But yeah, as a blogging platform, it's shit.
Check it out! Oh, this will get me reblogs for sure! Now, you could reblog this, but why follow the herd like some kind of sheep? Instead, save the image to your hard drive and upload it yourself, presenting it as your own work. There you go. Now sit back and watch that satisfying Tumblr fame just pour in.
Reblog!
Yeah. It's
Yeah, and the impetus for what Tumblr is doing is because they were actually banned from the Apple Store because of pornography, or miraculously child porn, because you have underage girls posting naked pictures of themselves on the site.
Yeah, I forgot about that. The Apple Store banned them, and then, I know there's problems with child porn on Tumblr, but at the same time, I know there's also that exact same problem on Twitter. And not just, dumb teenagers putting their shit up there, but I mean, there are actual people sharing child pornography on Twitter at shocking amounts. I remember years ago when I first got on Twitter, somebody was all like, please report this tweet for child porn. And I thought, what? And I was like, it's probably like some cartoon or something. What are they talking about? And I click on it. I was like, holy Jesus. Yeah, sorry. Report that. Yeah, flag the shit out of that. And now I got to throw this laptop out.
Well, with the sterilization of the internet, it plays into what sex negative feminists have been pushing for a long time. The whole pornography is violence against women. They've been pushing that for a long time, and now they're getting their wish. So, and the right will go along with this as well because the right has never been a fan of pornography. So, but yeah, I'm deeply amused by this because again, like you said, Bechtloff. The same people who are decrying what Tumblr is doing were cheering on people like us being chased off of Twitter, Facebook, etc. So, fuck them.
Yeah. Well, on the 18th, there'll be one Tumblr blog left, and it'll just be titled, Please Bring Back the Porn. With a million reblogs. I remember some skit. I think it was like a cartoon skit or something. No, it was a Robot Chicken bit where Al Qaeda brought America to its knees by creating a computer virus that deleted all the porn off the internet. Like it was all gone off everyone's computer, and there was massive riots. And there's like W sitting there, and he's like, "I have a message to the terrorists. Please bring back our porn." But honestly, if this actually gets leftists to suddenly care about fucking, a lack of censorship online, well, hey, there's a silver lining right there. If it destroys Tumblr, there's a silver lining right there. If this ends up being an overall trend to put porn back on porn sites, to make it so that you only find porn on the internet when you're looking for porn on the internet, I'd be quite happy with that. Just put it in its own red light district, and that's fine. So I don't really see any ways that this goes badly for somebody sitting where I'm sitting. Any number of ways this plays out is going to work out just fine. And like I said, if Torbo was smart, he'd take advantage of this. He'd make a Gab fucking Tumblr and then find all those people on or something. But he's not going to. God, that guy's mismanaged the shit out of that site.
More than mismanaged, he's been fucking banning people left and right, trying to censor right wingers to make it safe for people like Ann fucking Coulter. That guy's a shithead. If you're on Gab, you're bad, and you should feel bad.
Hey, I'm on Gab, but that's because it's the last place I'm allowed.
Well, with YouTube having its new community post feature, there's really no need for Gab or any sort of social media, because now you can make text posts on your YouTube channel. Do you have access to that feature? Because I do.
I don't know. I'd have to take a look. I haven't really.
Yeah, they enabled it for me last month, so it's helpful because I can direct people to my Twitch channel, which is the only place I can stream thanks to the strike. But it's helpful.
Yeah, suddenly the left's going to care about censorship. Oh, you took away our black.com blog.
You took it, and that means I just realized that means all the gay Nazi Tumblr blogs are going to go away. The satanic gay Nazi Tumblr blogs featuring cum splattered pictures of Richard Spencer and Jack Donovan.
Oh, jeez.
That is a thing that exists. Do not look at any of those blogs. You have been warned.
You only have a few days too if you're going to.
Yeah, you have about 2 weeks left to fucking open the door to the demon dimension. Don't do it, kids.
Dude, did you see that one I sent? I sent a screen cap of it because I wasn't going to just pass around a thing. I think somebody on my Discord sent it to me. It was called like former alt-writer.tumblr or whatever. And it was this dude that he supposedly was a former alt-writer. And then he's just obsessed with black.com pictures now. Oh, dude, Tumblr was fucked up. Yeah, I'm not sad to see that corner of the internet get scrubbed. It's gonna be quite interesting to see what happens as a result.
Biggest cell phone of the year.
I couldn't believe they did that, man. I could not believe that. And I was going through on Twitter because I can still go on Twitter with my suspended account. I can't post anything or follow anybody, but I can actually still search and stuff like that. So I'm searching through all the e-thoughts, all the fucking premium Snapchat bitches and stuff like that, and your cam whores and your findoms and all these other bitches, and they are just up in arms because I guess this is a major way that they advertise their wares. It's on these Tumblr blogs, and they are just. It's been a rough month for thoughts, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
The IRS and now Tumblr.
Actually, you know who else is gonna be hurt by the Tumblr shutdown? The Amazing Atheist, or more accurately, the people who want to catalog all the heinous shit he's ever done. That's all on his Tumblr blog. So go download his archive before it's too late. Just to remind everyone that he, groomed a mentally disabled young woman into a relationship that left her in a mental hospital.
Yeah, and send that shit to Jim. He's all about the shitting on the skeptics now. Everybody send that shit to Jim. I know he's got his hands full with Sargon and V, but speaking of Sargon, did you see that Nigel Farage officially quit UKIP? Like, so thanks a lot, Sargon.
Wait. That has to do with Sargon?
Basically. But I don't think he actually said it, but Nigel Farage was basically like, they'll let anybody in UKIP now.
Owned.
Oh, poor Brexit.
He's just got the anti-Midas touch. Like, he truly, anything he touches turns to shit. And he doesn't care. He doesn't care because he's just in it for himself. It's another one of these big brain nibbas that's just out there to quote unquote save the West, and it's nothing but fart huffing. Sargon's the quintessential of that, I don't know, kind. So what about you, Luke? Are you sad to see your favorite Tumblr porn blog go?
I honestly could never access Tumblr even when I could, because I couldn't understand how anyone could find anything on Tumblr. When I saw those videos about Tumblrisms, I couldn't understand how you could find anything.
Well, if you just go to tumblr.com, you have to go to the specific Tumblr blog.
You have to have an account, and when you have an account, you have to search the tags. Apparently, this is what Common Filth did.
That's my boomerism showing up.
Oh yeah, Tumblr is not user friendly at all. I never thought it was. It's trash. I mean, it belongs in the trash. I'll be happy to see it die. And like I said, I really think this is the beginning of it, man. I bet you Twitter's next. I know Facebook already cracks the fuck down on shit like that.
Oh, they basically have never even allowed it on the platform.
Yeah, but I've noticed they start cracking down. Like I've noticed a few like there's some pages I follow on Facebook that are like, sexy redhead pics or something. And they're all, none of them are nude. You know what I mean? Maybe some of them are almost nude kind of thing. Yeah. And I've noticed a few of them getting showed. Just they want to sanitize things. They want to absolutely sanitize the net. They want to make it Demolition Man. They want to make it as inoffensive and advertiser friendly as possible. A lot of those far left guys, they don't realize they're next.
They're getting hit with it already, and they're fucking at each other's throats. There's a podcast I sort of follow called the Red Scare Podcast, hosted by these couple of Russian Jewish immigrants who are like they're self-identified socialists, but they're like anti-feminist and actually sound like MRAs and manosphere types. They're mildly interesting. Anyway, they got in trouble recently because they like to call people retards and faggots and shit. So Luke Turner, who, if you'll recall, is one of the dudes who collaborates with Shia LaBeouf on such projects as He Will Not Divide Us, got one of the hosts banned from Twitter for using the word retard. Oh, it's going to happen to these people very soon. Probably when the next
thing about this sort of purity spiraling, it always turns on itself. That sort of mentality ultimately ends up with the last guy on a mountain of skulls putting a bullet in his own mouth.
All caffeine, contact sports, meat.
Are you shitting me?
John Stanton, you are fined 1 credit for a violation of the verbal morality statute.
What the hell is that?
John Stanton, you are fined 1 credit.
Bad language, chocolate, gasoline, uneducational toys, and anything spicy.
Yeah, exactly. That's the fucking future these idiots want. It's just Demolition Man. That's the future these bug men are trying to bring us towards.
Well, they already have us there basically with the sex part. I mean, people don't fuck anymore. They just masturbate.
Soon we won't even be allowed to do that. and that's the other thing. This is something I wish I saved it, but like I saw this one post on Facebook when people were bitching about the Tumblr porn and all, and was some hoe was all like, "I'm a stripper and I have a I have a Tumblr blog where I talk about, she called it locker room talk, but basically she talks shop about her shitty fucking sex worker job, and she's networked with other sex workers, and they swap stories about, I don't know, water cooler stories of being a fucking whore. But then she's like, and I'm not going to be able to do that because of the conservatives that did this to me. Like, sweetie, no, that's maybe the conservatives would have done it to you if they could. And maybe they're not sad that it happened to you, but they're not the ones that did this to you, sweetie.
Yeah, thinking conservatives have any power or political will these days. How quaint.
Yeah, this isn't 15 years ago in the Bush years, where maybe this isn't the 80s either. All right. Yeah, it wasn't Jerry Falwell that got you kicked off the internet. Okay. It was more like Anita Sarkeesian.
First sex has been proven to produce high orders of alpha waves during digitized transference of sexual energies.
All right, Oxley, what do you say we just do it the old-fashioned way?
Ew, disgusting.
Exactly. God, that movie was ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time. It's scary.
People used to shit on that movie, but man, it really was good.
It's aged like fine wine too, hasn't it?
And I'm a sucker for like those old kind of like sci-fi, action movies with people like
Stallone.
like Stallone or Schwarzenegger.
I even like Stallone's Judge Dredd movie.
Yeah, I think we talked about this. Judge Dredd isn't that bad. It's
a
corny.
decent flick.
Corny.
Is it as good as Dredd? Obviously not. But let me put it this way: I own both Dredd and Judge Dredd on DVD. I happily own both those movies on DVD.
Yeah, I mean the only really heinous thing about Judge Dredd is fucking Rob Schneider. No, there was no reason for him to be in that. And he had to be a bit goofy. He's like, Sylvester Stallone's like, you betrayed the law. But it's
but even that's enjoyable in its own way.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Second Life made something good.
Luke's getting us thrown off Tumblr here tonight. Oh, dude, the amount of false flags that their flagging system has come up with already. Like, if all these people complaining, you're going to see half the posts on Tumblr go dark. Like, conservative estimate, let's say porn truly is 10% of Tumblr. You're going to see 50% of all the existing picture posts on Tumblr go dark on the 18th.
Well, yeah, the other thing too, you should keep in mind when people are worried about the future of censorship, automated AI censorship, this is what it's going to look like. Like, we're not going to be living in some perfect world in which people can track down your racist statements and zap them away and zap you off. The dystopian world of like, oh, your Amazon smart fridge heard you mutter a racist slur to yourself, so it locks you out for 72 hours, locks you out from your groceries. No, it's shit like this. It's utter incompetence. It's a system designed to recognize porn, flagging everything from fucking Pepe memes to cooking recipes.
Oh yeah, and like I said, I've seen Chuck Norris memes. People screen capped. Oh, this is already flagged. Somebody on Twitter I saw had an art blog, and classical Greek statues were of course flagged for nudity. I mean, there's no.
And keep in mind, using these AI systems is the only way they can censor these websites.
Oh, absolutely. Because
there's simply too much information on them, and there's not enough. There's no way for human beings to handle it. I mean, consider right now, Facebook. A full third of Facebook's workforce is dedicated to censoring content, enforcing the community guidelines. Facebook employs 30,000 people worldwide. So Facebook employs 10,000 people whose sole job is to censor content, and they have AI algorithms, and even that's not enough.
And it's so simple. Like, if you even the Torba, even at Gab, he made it more complicated than it had to be. He fucked it up. He shot himself in the foot. If I owned something like Gab or Twitter or whatever, you know what the community guidelines would be like? Is it legal to say it? Then it's okay to post it. It's that fucking simple. Is it legal to post? Is it legal? Then it's okay. Then maybe a little bit like, okay, the porn has to be, marked as adult only and that sort of stuff, and let people form their own cliques within it. Let people block, let people mute, all that sort of thing. But you want to get out there and say some shit. Is it legal to say? Then it's legal to post.
Yeah, that's
because otherwise you make yourself not the platform but the publisher. If you are approving everything on your site, you're taking responsibility for it. The only way to truly not take responsibility for all that stuff is say, hey, if it's legal to post, or legal to say, it's legal to post. You absolve yourself of responsibility if you allow free speech.
Yeah, but Bechtloff, you're forgetting that the reason websites, a lot of websites, has moved towards this these more restrictive rules is because like upstream providers and domain registrars basically forced it on them.
There's
the first site this has happened to, if people forget, the first site this happened to was 8chan about almost 4 years ago. They had their domain seized because their domain registrar didn't like their policy on porn. Gab has been threatened. No, actually, it did happen to Gab like a month ago or so. They had their domain seized. It's happened to alt-right.com.
Well, part of this, the government simply needs to step in and apply some common carrier laws, whatever you want to apply to this shit. But trust me, I'm not one that is ever inclined to say I want the government to do X, Y, and Z. But in this case, damn it, we need them to. I don't like that fact, but all these cocks that want to be like, well, I want a free market solution. Do you have one? No? Then I guess we have to go with this.
Well, it's like when they talk about the free market solution, it's like fucking masturbation. There is no free market solution because there is no free market. I was actually on Luke Ford's show actually before coming on with Bechtloff. Luke Ford with Kevin Michael Grace, and Grace and I were discussing this on how conservatism basically is it's just liberalism on a slight time delay. Counting on their talk of the free market, their talk of the of this horse shit. It's completely impotent. It means nothing. And Grace shared an interesting statistic. Conservatism, as defined by like the Weekly Standard, BIH, can defined by William F. Buckley, defined by Tom Nichols, defined by conservatives, is supported by 3% of the U.S. population. 3% of the U.S. population supports these people, agrees with them. It's a joke. Their whole philosophy is a fucking joke.
Well, I remember after, years ago, and I was still much more of a libertarian at that point, but I remember putting up an early post on my blog back when I had my blog, and I said, you always, because it was right after the 2012 defeat. And, you heard all these Republican people, oh, we got to go back to conservative values. And I'm like, can anybody actually define that for me? Because all I see is this weird hodgepodge of individual beliefs with no actual connection between them. 1 minute you're talking about small government, the next minute you're throwing that out the window for this or that issue. There doesn't seem to be any real goal or philosophy behind it. It just seems to be, the one apologetic guy I listen to, Ravi Zacharias, he once described postmodernism as more of a mood and a reaction than an actual philosophy. And that's basically what conservatism, quote unquote, is. It's a mood, it's a reaction, but it's not a philosophy, it's not a goal, it's not a set of values, really.
Well, Grace and I were discussing this in the context of like what happened to Roseanne Barr. He noted that leftists were obviously calling for a head, but so were right wingers, like mainstream right wingers. They were saying she has to go shoot for the horrible racism, blah blah blah. And conservatives have been doing this for a long time. If you recall, about 5 years ago, when Donald Sterling, the guy who owned the LA Clippers or whatever it was, he got caught. His mistress recorded him saying the N-word, and as a result, he got banned from the NBA and had to sell the team and all of that. Conservatives were supporting his firing too. He's like, oh, he's a horrible racist for saying those things in public. In private, I mean.
I seem to remember some of his actual team, like some of the people that worked under him, some of the actual players on his team were like, "Oh, he's a great boss. I don't think we should go. He should go at all."
Well, yeah. I mean, and the other thing too is like they missed the context of what he was saying. I mean, I'm not gonna. He said basically he was arguing with this ugly mistress of his who's basically 50% plastic. She shouldn't be saying those words. That she shouldn't be behaving in a certain fashion. He wasn't attacking people. He was saying he was using it as an example of a word not to use, a concept not to use, and they hung him for it anyway.
Well, I mean, mainstream conservatives are absolutely useless. In fact, the rumor going around today, you reminded me, is that the Weekly Standard, the one Bill Kristol owns, it's supposed to be shutting down here soon.
Yeah, I mean, that was discussed on the Ford show too. I'm obviously happy to see it fucking go because fuck it, but these people, these ideas always seem to find funding. Mainstream conservatism, it has no real support base. Like I said, 3% of the U.S. population agrees with people like Bill Kristol. 3% of the U.S. population agrees with people like Charlie Sykes and Charles Krauthammer. Yet they have a lot of wealthy people backing them. Or should I say, they have a lot of wealthy people backing them. So I can entirely see, even if the Weekly Standard goes, which is again burn in hell, all the people who are involved are just gonna fucking squirm off to new plum gigs.
Well, I can't remember who said it. It might have been Fuentes, but he posted it. Somebody posted this thing where they talked about somebody bailed out Glenn Beck's shithole, The Blaze.
It was they merged the Blaze merged with Mark Levin's CRTV, which means that
every major right-wing outlet is Jewish owned right now. And the post I saw said, he lists the names of all the people that owned it, and he goes, with all these names, let me just say that I don't think you're going to get a lot of diversity of thought when it comes to certain issues like, say, I don't know, the Middle East.
Well, Beck is a Mormon. He was already a spiritual Jew, and but actually, if anyone here in the audience is still a fan of Gavin McInnes, you have no reason not to trust him. He's going to be taking orders from Glenn Beck now.
I don't know. Maybe they'll get together and they'll be able to cut the sexual tension with a knife. Dude, no lie. There is an interview he did with Anderson Cooper where it was.
Glenn Beck or
Gavin like they were going to kiss.
I really want to find that interview. I'm trying to find it.
I wish I could. Help
was it Glenn Beck being interviewed or?
Yeah, it was Glenn Beck and Anderson Cooper were sitting down talking. And this was during the 2016 election where I can't be around Trump because he's not a true conservative. But let me kiss the ass of any and every liberal who will fucking pay attention to me. It was almost as embarrassing as when he read his Hello Kitty diary to fucking. Which I will never get tired of talking about when Glenn Beck read his diary to Sarah Palin. In fact, Luke, can you bring that up?
Oh yeah, I will.
We might want to watch that again because that.
Yeah, I'd also like to add that Glenn Beck is he's a never Trumper. So was Mark Levin. Mark Levin was a. I've always hated that motherfucker. I always have. He ripped off garbage. He ripped off Michael Savage's shtick, but Savage was at least entertaining and had gravitas. Mark Levin is just a screechy, angry stereotype of everything people hate about Jews.
I don't always agree with Savage. In fact, sometimes I find myself vehemently disagreeing with Savage. I always enjoy Savage's show. He seems nothing if not genuine.
Savage is an entertaining guy because he has actual life experiences that he can draw on. He became hosting radio for him is basically something for him to amuse himself with in his retirement. He didn't angle for a radio career his entire life the way that Mark Levin or Hannity or whatnot did. And Savage talks about things other than politics, whereas like Hannity is the worst example of this. But Levin is
Savage is a great show. I listen. Savage is probably the best talk radio show on the AM.
Levin is such a snake. I remember him smearing Pat Buchanan 10 years ago because Pat Buchanan was calmly suggesting that maybe we shouldn't be getting so involved in the Middle East. He was just saying,
one is as much of a snake as Beck, though. No one in talk radio is as much of a. Yeah, let's watch this again. This is just fucking fantastic. I love this clip.
Sarah, I want to read to you what I wrote last night in my journal, because it's about you.
Look at her, look at her.
Tomorrow I meet Sarah Palin and family for the first time. I'm actually a little nervous, as she is one of the only people that I can see that can possibly lead us out of where we are. I don't know yet if she's strong enough.
Look at the look on her face. Look at the contempt that she can barely hide.
She looks like a dominatrix who services a really obnoxious client.
Yes, with a really obnoxious client. She looks like a dominatrix that is genuinely mad.
But hey, that means the sub will get his money's worth then.
Yeah, she's about to work Beck over. she's gonna smother his face in Cheeto dust. Oh man, Beck. The other thing, I will never forget this. This is the first time I really saw something shady from Beck. It was during the 08 election cycle. This might even have been like 2007, but it was during that election cycle. He was shitting on Ron Paul just unmercifully because, you know, Ron Paul was just thinking, hey, maybe we shouldn't go broke bombing brown people for no reason. And Glenn Beck pretended like Ron Paul refused to come on his show. Like he was on CNN headline news at the time, and he kept cutting over. What do you think, Dr. Paul? And it was like an empty chair. He's like, oh, that's right. He wouldn't come on. When Glenn Beck didn't invite him. Like Ron Paul came out like a day later and was like, I was never invited on that show. And Beck was like, oh, it must have been some miscommunication, and then had him on. It's like, not only is that shady, but it's like that shows such poor impulse control. Like, did you really think you weren't going to get called on it, Beck?
Well, in the case of Glenn Beck, it's like the guy's clearly dumb and low IQ. So while he's a snake, he's not as effective a snake as someone like Levin, who is actually intelligent. Them getting together is like the CERN of just sneaky snake shit.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, I can't imagine the new CRTV or Blaze Me or Blaze Bum Brown or whatever they're calling it is gonna succeed anymore. Well, I don't understand from a financial perspective, absorbing the Blaze makes no sense because it's losing money. They shed, you know, I'd never watched any content on it, but I assume they've gotten rid of most of their money makers aside from Beck himself. Beck has destroyed his reputation, destroyed it over the course of 2015, 2016. There's no value to that enterprise anymore. CRTV, I think, is more profitable because, again, they managed to get Gavin McInnes. They had Roaming Millennial. But as an acquisition, from a business perspective, it makes no sense. Well, it's not. They didn't do it out of a good business sense. You know, these cocksuckers in the establishment media, and they are establishment people. They always look out for each other. It's like it's like for all their talk of the free market, they sure do love giving each other handouts.
When Beck was on Fox during like the early years of Obama, and he was, you know, he had this chalkboard and his fucking conspiracy shit. He was obviously ripping off Alex Jones's shtick, but he would actually rip off Alex Jones's show on a couple of occasions. Like, I mean, did you miss Alex Jones yesterday? Well, just watch Glenn Beck today and get a watered down version of that. And it's funny because, I mean, he constantly throws Jones under the bus. Oh, Alex Jones is crazy. Alex Jones deserved to get deplatformed here recently, that kind of thing. Beck's just man, what a sleazeball. What a fucking piece of shit he is. And you're right, Levin's a piece of shit too.
Plus, again, it might just be a visual thing with me because like Levin's voice just instinctively makes me want to gouge my ears in.
Well, Glenn Beck, I mean, to use that big alpha, beta, gamma thing that the Manosphere and Vox Day and all use, Glenn Beck is the definition of a gamma. I mean, I honestly believe 90% of his problem with Trump was just a gamma male triggered by an alpha swagger. It was entirely personal with him from the get-go. You know, you could, whether you like Trump or not, just understand it was it was entirely personal with Beck. I think maybe Mrs. Beck called out Trump's name or something in bed once, and that was the end of it.
Well, it's like Levin's objection to Trump, if I recall correctly, was that Trump was not. Trump called the Iraq War disaster, which it was. Trump wasn't as gung ho on the surface of it as for bombing brown people, which all pisses off Levin because, well, I think Mark Levin is a very good patriot. He's a very ardent nationalist. He's an absolute credit to his people. The problem is his nation ain't America; it's Israel.
Oh,
yeah, and there's a lot of that.
If I ever met him in person, I would just tell him, dude, if you love Israel so much, go fucking make Aliyah, okay? They'll fucking pay for your trip. They'll give you free Hebrew lessons. And it's clear you don't like being surrounded by all these nasty goys. That fucking fat slut. I can't stand Mark Levin.
There's really a talk radio wise. I mean, I'll listen to Rush if I'm driving around. Savage, I like listening to. Other than that, none of them. I mean, maybe I'd listen to Hannity if it was on, but that's it.
Well, the market fell out of talk radio over 10 years ago, due to the fact that people were transitioning towards the internet. So that was inevitable. But the talent pool was gradually drained out due to corporatization. Used to be that
there's no young talk radio guys. You know what I mean? There's no upstarts. You know,
the closest thing to an upstart you had in talk radio you have is Ben Shapiro.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, but that's in part because, well, like I said, I think younger people are going to gravitate towards the internet where they can get a bigger audience and not have to worry about censoring themselves as much. But the corporatization of the radio industry that started with telecommunications deregulation in the 90s, you had all these conglomerates like Clear Channel, Citadel, just snapping up every radio station they could, cutting costs by replacing local hosts with syndicated hosts, and that wiped out the farm team. All the all the talented, noteworthy syndicated radio hosts started out with local hosts. Sean Hannity was a local host in Atlanta. Michael Savage was a local host in San Francisco. Rush was a local host in, was it New York or Florida or Missouri? I don't remember where. But basically, those guys are part of the farm team, basically. You start out doing a show in some squat, nowheresville like Fargo, North Dakota, or Columbia, Missouri, and you work your way up to the bigger markets. You work your way up to Albany. You work your way up to Syracuse, and then if you're good enough, you work your way up to the top 10. Seattle's, your Philadelphia's, your Boston's, your New York City's, and then if you're really good, you get a syndicated deal. But when you wipe out the farm team and replace all the the people who do the local talk shows on the smaller stations in the smaller cities with just syndicated programming, well, there's no talent pool to draw on. Michael Savage is talented, but the dude's like in his late 70s. Who's going to replace him when he goes? Who's going to replace Rush Limbaugh? Who's going to replace, I fucking hate Hannity, but who's going to replace Hannity when he retires? There's nothing there.
Yeah. I noticed the talk radio in my area. The local guys, phased out. And it's all the syndicated stuff. Even on music radio in the last few years, I've noticed, local DJs sort of going away. I noticed when I was working first shift, a while ago there, the one local station, its morning show went away, and it became this syndicated national morning show called Dave and Jimmy. The other local station, its morning show went away, and it got replaced with another syndicated morning show, Elvis Duran. I think Dave and Jimmy was out of California or so, not California. I think they were both out of New York, actually. But the point is, they just got, just replaced. And now it's the national shit,
Yeah, and Clear Channel started doing something really stupid, which is forcing their some of their local talk shows to do like second shows in different markets for like barely any extra money. This happened in Syracuse. In Syracuse, the dominant news talk station, well, I assume it still is, I haven't been there, was WSYR. They had a local morning show, local news, traffic, and weather in the morning. And then the afternoon drive show, they had a guy named Jim Reef, who wasn't a great talk show host, but he was local. He talked about local issues. He knew the local scene, Well, he got fired due to a top-down order from Clear Channel management because his show was not doing as well in the 25 to 54 demographic as Clear Channel had hoped. But here's the thing. In the months prior to him getting fired, Clear Channel had forced him to change the format of his show. It used to be just a regular talk show, but then they tried to do like a morning news, traffic, and weather thing in the afternoon with traffic and weather every 10 minutes, which completely disrupted his flow and made it impossible for him to have like a thought or an interview that lasted for more than 4 or 5 minutes at a time. No, not even, more like 3 or 4 minutes. So they went and wrecked it. I'm sure that caused his ratings to collapse because Syracuse is not that big. You don't need news, traffic, and weather every 10 minutes in Syracuse, of all places. People in the afternoon want to hear a talk show. They want to hear a complete thought coming out of people's. It's not a drop in, drop out environment. So they forced a change on a show that caused his ratings to collapse, and then they blamed him for it and fired him for it. They replaced him with a guy named Bob Lonsbury, who hosts a show from Rochester, which is about an hour and a half away. He knows nothing of Syracuse. He knows nothing of the local area. He has no local connections. Half the time, he can't even pronounce the local towns right. And for some weird fucking thing, the guy's a Mormon, which gives me another reason to fucking hate him. For some reason, he insisted on doing like a Bible study segment on his program, which, okay, did he confuse? I know Syracuse is called a Salt City, but it's not Salt Lake City. You don't do a Bible show on a secular radio station in New York. It just doesn't work. And this guy only has a job of Clear Channel because he look at that shit-eating grin. Look at that motherfucker. That guy could deep throat a turd with a smile on his face all the way through. Just inhale it and be like, boy, howdy, that was the best turd I ever had.
It's so funny. Like a couple years ago, I was working third shift, and this was when I started to see the real. This was probably like 2010, and 2011, something like this, and I started to see the real decline in local radio, even because when you're working those sort of blue collar jobs, everybody's got a radio they're listening to, and we actually timed it. The one radio station played over 3.5 hours of a commercial break. The reason being is they no longer had anyone in the middle of the night before the morning crew came in. They no longer had anyone in the building. So something just aired out and the commercial break repeated, and there was no one to stop it for 3.5 hours.
Oh, that happened multiple times at a talk station I used to listen to when I was going up to college, the talk station that was owned by Clear Channel, and it had Rush, Hannity, and all that. It had no local programming. Just in the morning they had Imus, and then in the overnights they had Coast to Coast. I remember this happened at least 4 or 5 times over the course of the year.
Well, this was a music station, though. That's the thing. This was like a top 40 station or a rock station or something like that.
Well, this was the station that had Rush. It was supposed to be leading in ratings and have competent staff, but half the time you turn into Coast to Coast or what's going on in the evenings, and it's just the fucking same loop of commercials again and again and again and again.
Yeah, this was like 3.5 hours of commercials. It's funny you mentioned like the news and traffic every 10 minutes. You ever see the movie Private Parts, like the Howard Stern biography?
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
There's
I
a
actually
bit
read the
in
book
there,
too.
and I can't. It's been years since I've seen it, but there's a bit in there where like his boss was on his ass about doing the news and the time and temperature and all or whatever. Doing the little bits, and he is just dumping out this really heavy story, the kind of some really emotional personal story, and everybody's just listening on the edge of their seat to it, and he just sort of breaks it up and he goes, time is 4:40, temperature 31 degrees, like just like in the middle of this just intense story, just breaks it up with like time and temperature or something, some dumb shit like that.
Oh yeah. it's radio in general just seems to be have a surfeit of just retarded managements. I used to when I was in college, I briefly interned at a talk station in Albany. I might as well give the name out because they're no longer a talk station because management ruined it. WROW. They had a semi-commitment to local talk. They had a local morning show, local afternoon show. The guy who hosted the afternoon show was also the program director. That guy was an absolute prick and a psychopath. This guy had the genius idea of not having the traffic at the top of the hour, but instead airing it like at 5 minutes past. But because he was such an idiot who couldn't manage his own traffic properly, traffic being the official term for placement of commercials, the news would air at random points. Sometimes 3 minutes past the hour, sometimes 2 minutes, sometimes 6 minutes, sometimes right before, like at 59. And the guy, all that sorts of nonsense happened. They also fired half their news staff while I was there, and replaced it with one of the owner's fucking daughter, who had a voice like Kermit the Frog after drinking hot brandy, and could not pronounce anything correctly. The management at these radio stations is full of teeming with psychopaths, and people have no idea what they're doing.
I actually have met one of the local DJs in this area, and man, was he a fucking asshole. I was working in one of the Halloween shows, and he ended up tagging along. It was one of those kind of haunted hayride, haunted barn kind of Halloween shows. And sometimes you'd be there super late. Like they'd stop selling tickets at 9 or 10, but everybody who had a ticket got to go through. And sometimes you could be there till 1 in the morning or something like that. And, we're all at the bar afterwards, and he just invited himself along with us. And, oh man, what a fucking douche. I swear the DJs on the rock stations are the fucking worst.
Yeah, you're listening to 95 Triple X, and it's Rocktober. We rock more than any other month of the year. Rock more than any other station here on 95 Triple X.
Oh, what a fucking douche. I remember for a while I thought I wanted to get into radio, but then I started to see what a fucking nightmare it is for most people.
Yeah, the work is insane, the management is insane, and the pay is shit. Up until you get to middle market, you're basically making nothing.
Yeah, half the time they get an intern or something to do their morning show, the local ones, and then now it's the way it's going. Music stations are going to have about a dozen morning shows in the whole country.
Yeah. Well, it's talk radio's been there. Half the time at most of these stations, the only local show is the morning show, and that's just because there's not much of a market for early morning shows.
Yeah, I noticed with the one.
They're such cheap fucks. I remember when WROW decided to flip formats in Albany. This was about 8 years ago. They were the Glenn Beck affiliates for some reason. The local Clear Channel station, WGY, did not air Glenn Beck, even though it was a Clear Channel program. They had a local program in that slot. A local program that was pretty damn good too, by a guy named Al Roney, who he was a pretty good local host. He knew local shit. So as soon as WROW flips, what does WGY do to reward Roney for he'd been in this station for 20 years? At first as a newscaster and as a radio host. They reward him by firing his ass and replacing him with Glenn Beck. And without even giving him a chance to say goodbye. It's literally he does his show on Friday, and then after he ends the show, management tells him, "Oh, that was your last show. Get your shit. You need to be gone from the building in 30 minutes."
Oh, dude, the best one I ever saw. There was a station in my area, and I guess it still is, at 106.7, used to change formats so many fucking times. It was a music station, but just constantly for well over 15 years, it hasn't been able to keep a format for more than a year or two. And it's a music station, you know what I mean? And for a while it was a pop station, right? So it was I was working third shift, and You know, it'd be one of the stations I'd flip through that I could actually pick up. And I remember one night, I turned to it and I literally caught it the night it had changed over, right? Like, you know, you flipping radio stations, and like earlier that night it was playing like current stuff. And then I flip it over and it's like, and this is like mid 2000s, it's like playing oldies, but really fucking oldies, like 50s music, right? And it's like 50s music that's kind of leaning country of all things. And I thought, what the fuck happened? It's the same. And then I hear the same local morning show people in, right? And I thought, that's weird. So on my last break, I just called up the fucking radio station, right? And I get through and I'm like, what the hell happened to you guys? And the DJ said to me, we changed apparently.
Apparently?
That was her exact words to me. Now, this was a Sunday night into Monday morning, right? So she was coming in for, this was my Monday. So it was Sunday night because I was working third shift. So it was like, I'm calling this woman at like, you know, 5 o'clock on a Monday morning. And I said, what happened to you guys? What happened to 106.7 Cool Pop? Because they were, you know, something else was their name now. And she's like, yeah, we changed apparently. But she didn't even, she just come in like, what the hell's with this playlist?
Yeah, that sort of thing became common. You know, there are, or at least there were last time I listened, there were still some like radio stations in major markets, talk radio stations and music stations that still had a primarily local lineup, but that seems to be going by the wayside too. Like in New York, for example, New York, the top talk stations in New York, WABC and WOR, are mostly syndicated crap now. WBZ still does a good job, from what I understand. You know, they do a news format during the day, and at night they have talk shows. They used to have a really great guy named Steve Lavelli in the overnight hours, who was basically just kind of a general, you know, like, interest talk, not really political. The guy was left leaning, but his interactions with callers were hilarious, you know. And that station was, it was a Clear Channel station in the sense that not owned by Clear Channel, but it was on a Clear Channel. So 50,000 watts, you could pick it up over huge areas at night. So I could pick that up in my car in upstate New York or Vermont, and that was just a weird joy for me, just surfing the AM band at night to see what I could pick up, what distance stations I could pick up. I mean, yeah, you've got the internet now where you can access anything, but just not the same. There's just something like awesome about like being able to dial into a station in Boston or a station in Chicago or a station in Atlanta when you're like in the middle of buttfuck upstate New York and tuning into stuff you wouldn't ordinarily be able to hear. Because this was like, you know, when internet streaming and bandwidth was pretty sucky. That was pretty awesome. You don't have that anymore.
Yeah, you really don't. It's like I said, I think the rock station in my area, it actually went to a local morning. It used to do Stern, but then when Stern went over to satellite, it put all their it formed a local morning show, and it advertises itself as Central PA's #1 local morning show. I mean, there's probably not that much fucking competition at this point. I know all the pop stations went to syndicated shit. And I think like what do you call those? The kind of the easy listening stations. They're sort of like pop stations for, you know, instead of being for teens and 20s, they're for 30 and 40-year-olds, but they're still current stuff. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Those I think still do the local shit, but it's really only them and the rock station that do the local shit.
Well, Stern leaving opened up like jobs for like a ton of people. You know, CBS was they tried to replace him with they helped kickstart Adam Carolla's radio career by giving him a semi-syndicated show on the West Coast. Because he was from LA and they played it on the San Francisco station and the Vegas station and the Phoenix station, and on the East Coast they tried to groom David Lee Roth into a fucking radio host, which lasted 3 months before they begged Opie and Anthony to come back and save their asses. So that led to a minor renaissance for morning radio with Stern leaving. They actually had this weird trend, CBS was, where they They were trying to lure people away from some satellite radio by having like FM talk stations where people just talked about basically like Stern style morning zoo, mature themed radio all day long. But the experiment didn't work out because within 2 years, all but like 2 of those stations had gone back to playing music, and those 2 stations had been talk stations prior to the whole format being introduced. And now they're no longer talk stations either. Now they're playing music.
I think the only FM quote unquote talk stations in my area are the religious ones that, they're all syndicated, I don't know what you call them, parachurch ministries, but the half an hour kind of sermon show or whatever. And then the one in my area plays a lot of like old timey like hymns and shit like that, but they're the closest thing to FM talk, I think, in the area.
Yeah, I mean, FM talk now is like some AM stations rebroadcast on FM. Like WSY moved to an FM signal like a few years back. WGY did as well. That was their attempt to kind of rope in the younger the younger listeners. But I can't imagine too many young people in the most valuable demographics even know what radio is these days. I did appreciate for the greater audio fidelity, but the thing is with the thing is with radio, AM is still in many ways more valuable than FM because you can project over a much wider area with a lot less electricity, particularly at night when the skywave propagation. You can send radio signals. Like I said, you can listen to an Atlanta or a Chicago area signal in upstate New York. If you look at like the contour maps of a station, like stations that are on the coast, like WABC in New York, you can like see at night, like they go all the way down to Florida.
I didn't realize that. That's pretty rad.
Oh yeah, that was you can pick up like stations in Boston and New York all the way down to like I've picked them up as far south as North Carolina. Probably could go further south, but I've never been that far south. And that's stuff that's to me again. That's just I'm kind of a geek for that technology. It was more meaningful back when these stations actually had original programming instead of just running syndicated stuff. But it's still pretty neat.
Well, who knows? You might see a resurgence of that as they kill the internet.
Yeah. I've joked about buying a shortwave station in Armenia.
Yeah, we're all gonna be fucking. The next 4chan's gonna be on fucking ham radios.
Yeah, I mean, if you watch Review Bra, the report of the week, he said this is why he hosts the shortwave radio show, because you're reaching people that don't have access to the internet. You can evade YouTube censorship, and you can talk about things you really can't on a social media platform.
Well, I'll tell you what keeps radio still relevant to me, even local radio. I mean, I have satellite radio in my car, and I love it. The yearly subscription ends right around the time of my birthday. So for the past couple of years, my dad's just gotten it for me for my birthday, because otherwise I probably couldn't afford it. But I love the satellite radio, but I've worked a lot of blue collar jobs over the years. And, many of those kind of places you can listen to the radio while you're working. So that's what's kept it so fucking relevant to me. That's why I tend to bounce around a bunch of radio stations, because music wise, I mean, most music stations are programmed in a way that they assume their audience completely turns over every like 10 to 20 minutes. So listening to them for 8 hours is a bit much, and picking up AM sometimes in those kind of buildings is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's one thing they're not good at. Yeah, I mean, plus listening to talk radio or any sort of spoken word is generally better if you're trying to stay awake. Music puts you to sleep. This is scientifically proven, but even a bad show will keep your brain engaged.
Yeah, and like I said, the music just gets old after a while.
Yeah. I was briefly subscribed to XM. That was when Art Bell came back and was hosting a show on satellite radio. That only lasted for 6 weeks when he got kicked off the air.
All right. Well, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, folks. Thank everybody for listening. Forney, thanks for being on.
I found a great clip to end on.
Oh, what's that?
You are acting like a bunch of niggers.
Now, I'm afraid that over the course of the last few months, under this leader, Mr. Gerard Batten, a lot has changed.
Good old Sargon, killing UKIP. Thanks a lot, Sargon. Not only are you not saving the West, you're sort of doing the opposite. Forney, thanks for being on. I know it's some sort of crazy hour in whatever European hellhole you're hiding in right now.
Well, it's actually 10 in the morning, but thanks.
Well, to me, that's a crazy hour because I'm a second shifter. And Luke, thanks as always for being on. Thanks for your sidekick duties. And that's about all we got for tonight, folks. Want to thank you all for listening. Bechtloff out.